Banana slam jam.
There's a lot of stuff that I was worried about talking about during the game, and I think there's definitely times that I was trying to tell you guys what to think about, and it actually got you like killed or you played out of position because I was like kind of distracting you a bit. Obviously, there's a lot from that game. I have a general idea of what I want to say to everyone, one at a time, but I'm gonna kind of just go throughout the course of the game, and every time I remember something I wanted to say to you guys individually, we'll talk about it. So, a couple things I noticed with Lena. Most of the time when I watch Lena's, they level their passive level 2. You don't really have mana to spam your spells. In lane, it's all about like efficient trading. That's all Dota is, like every single hero in the game. And so with Lena, if you think about your passive, it's like I cast Light Strike Array for 100 mana, and then my passive effectively gives me free damage, like on top of that Light Strike Array. So it turns that 100 mana into like more efficient damage. So I kind of watched you I watched you skip your passive until like level 11, but I also saw you holding your skills in lane. So like you were pretty much sitting around full mana for most of the lane, which for me is a sign that you don't understand how efficient your spells can be, and a lot of that has to do with not leveling your passive. So it ends up just being that you guys got effectively out-traded top. Like, that's all that happened. Nothing fancy, nothing specifically like one instance of bad what happened. It was over time, they just hit you more than you hit them. And that means that, at the 5-minute mark, the Lifestealer is out-leveling the Doom. You guys died once or twice. And I think a lot of it was on you, but it's also going to be on the Doom that I'm going to be talking about here. So I wanted you to be really aware that any role in the game, for all of you this applies. Please think of your skills and how they synergize in a way that makes your mana usage optimal, but also so your health and mana balance is like as close as possible. What I mean by that is like we don't want to be full health with no mana, or we don't want to be 100 health with full mana. Like we want it to be somewhere close where the balance of our resources is like efficient. With that in mind, Spectre and Coddle, I think the overall approach to the lane, I want to show this. So I'm actually going to take this time to flame Spectre real quick. So this is exactly why my supports that I try to coach tell me they don't pull at lower MMRs. So the idea was this lane. I'm going to ask you a Spectre. Do you want to be hitting this axe? Like, is that what you want to be doing in this lane?
No.
No,
Because,
right?
he has counter.
Go ahead.
Yeah, because he has counter helix.
Yes. So it's not like an efficient lane for you to be hitting them back and forth, right? Like, that's not what you want to be doing. Maybe you don't mind going for kills, but consistent trading is bad for you here. So with that in mind, that's why I wanted Coddle to pull, because he's not really a kill support, and if you constantly trade, that actually isn't good for you. Like, that's not something your hero wants in this game. So if the support stays in lane, and he's not a kill hero, and you don't want to be trading, we're just being inefficient. That's all that's happening here. Like, that's why I told him to pull. So we're going to pull up the point in the game where Coddle pulls. Right here. So we push out the lane a bit. But with him pulling, we're effectively going to see this right here. Right here. We'll go to that first blood in a second. But what do you see here on Spectre? The lane's pushing into you, right? This is coming towards you. If you go for this creep right now, like, let's ask ourselves. These are the type of questions I like to ask myself in lane. If I go for this creep right here, what's going to happen to me? Like, if I try to deny him this creep, what's going to happen?
Yeah, I'm gonna die.
You're going to get battle hungered and ran at, and what are you going to do about it?
I'm just gonna. The wisest thing to do is back up to my tier 1 tower.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm asking you, if you go for this creep and he battle hungers you, what happens?
Basically, I ran out of health, HP.
You run away and you
Die.
can't fight back. Is that what you're trying to answer with? Like, you can't fight him, right? Like, you literally can't do
I
anything.
can't fight
You're
him.
forced to run away. And that's because he has more creeps than you and you're both level 1. That's the only reason. Like, the weaker we are, the stronger creeps are. Like, creeps stay the same while heroes get stronger. So level 1, creeps are incredibly scary. And they should decide they should make our decisions for us. If there's more creeps, be passive. Less creeps, be aggressive. Like, that's like a big deal in the early stages of the lane. So I tell your support to pull here, And this is exactly what carries do wrong. Was this worth the deny to you? Was this deny worth it for you?
No,
Did you
no,
enjoy that 400 health? Was that completely predictable simply based on creeps? 100%. And
yes,
I want
it
you to
was
remember
very
that one
predictable.
creep deny cost you like 8 CS under tower and you're getting dove. Okay? So, on the other hand though, what we could have done, because we know our support is pulling, let's wait for it here. We look for an opportunity right here to drag creeps, creep aggro. Because what do we want to do? We know our support's pulling, so we don't want to get dove. Like, that's what we don't want to happen, because that's the natural side effect of our support pulling. So if we creep aggro to this range creep right now, and then 3 seconds later, because that's the timer on creep aggro again to like right here, the creeps are going to get to the tower before this axe does. Okay? And then what happens is you can kill these creeps before the axe starts hitting you a bunch. And then you're basically saving yourself health. You're getting the CS. You're not getting freaking chased under tower while 100 health. And what effectively happens is Coddle gets a pull camp, so he gets to farm this whole pull camp to himself. He's going to deny 1 or 2 creeps. And maybe you're going to miss 1 or 2 creeps under tower. Maybe. Like, that's what's going to happen. But instead, the net effect of pulling is you taking 500 damage and missing 10 CS. Like, that's what actually happened in this pull. And that is 100% your fault, and it needs to be avoided every time your support pulls. So, moving on from there, I want to go back to mid. Every lane I'm in, it's pretty straightforward. I ask myself, what's the worst that could happen here? Like, how do I win this lane? How do I lose this lane? Like, if I'm going to lose, what's it look like? And the only way you lose this lane ever is getting hooked under tower. That is the literal only way you lose this lane. So with me, I like to think about Dota that way. Sometimes you don't know matchups. Sometimes you haven't played it for a while. Completely understandable. But your entire focus as a player to train yourself should be thinking about the win condition and lose condition of your lane, avoiding that at all costs, or creating it at all costs if you're talking about the win condition. Everything else comes second. CSing, aggro, everything comes next. Meaning that you have to train yourself to prioritize the things that are important, and then eventually all the mechanics start to happen naturally because, you know, the stuff that you're thinking about will naturally make you do your mechanics correctly. Meaning like, oh, I shouldn't go for this CS because I'm afraid of getting hooked. Or I should be positioned behind the CS rather than to the right of it because I'm afraid of getting hooked. And it'll guide your movements in lane, and then you'll naturally learn to just throw in the CS and the denies later. But people ask me, like, when should I go for denies? When should I go for CS? And a lot of it is based on these wins and loss conditions of the lane itself. It's like, I could tell Spectre, every time your support pulls and they have 5 creeps and you have 1, you should not go for a deny. Like, that should never happen, because exactly what we saw bottom is going to happen every single time. These are all fundamental things that we want to pay attention to happening across all games. So for you, it's kind of hard to apply this in a general concept because, you know, I don't know how often you land against mid-pudge. But in general, thinking like, okay, if I'm against a Tiny or a Mag, be careful of getting skewered or tossed under tower. Like, all of your play should be based on of that. So that was really the main thing I watched with you mid. I'm not going to be talking to you too much in the next, like, 7 minutes on Invoker, just because I thought your rotations early were pretty solid, and after this hook death, I didn't really have anything particularly that screamed out to me. I wanted to talk about top a bit. So what I noticed with Doom is that, how often, it looks like you don't have too many games of Doom. How many games of Doom have you played, if you don't mind me asking?
15.
Okay, and by the way, when I say it looks like you haven't played, I'm talking about your Dota Plus level, not skill or whatever. So, you know, that wasn't a flame. It's really important what creep you get. I think it's important for all players to start understanding the importance of creeps in the game. Heroes that interact with creeps, you know, Doom, Enchantress, Chen. I can't think of any more off the top of my head, but any hero that buys a Helm Dome. The interaction of creeps in the game is very important. These creeps have very special skills that are very important. One of the most importantly broken parts of Doom is that he can get a creep. Like, all the creep abilities in the game solve something. Ice Armor, Crit Wolf, even a magic resistance creep. You know, it's like it's 10% magic resist against arrow or star storm. It's like it's not great, but it's better than absolutely nothing. And I saw you not get a creep for a while. So you have level 2 Devour. That gives you creep max level of 5. This Centaur is level 5. Go get that creep. Like, you have a Centaur for free. It's a stun. The Lifestealer commits on you. Shit. You know, like, use it.
Okay.
I think what I watched in your game was, I wouldn't want to say necessarily bad decision making. Your itemization and skill like acquiring was the problem. Like, you were not setting yourself up to be able to play Dota properly. So I want to talk about these like fundamental things. We'll talk about Doom a bit, but we'll also be talking about things you can hopefully apply to other heroes you're playing. So that's what I noticed with you predominantly. Like right here, it should just be a Centaur you got, right?
Oh no, I missed green.
Yeah, either way, it's just something I noticed this a lot, and I'll talk about it in a second. I'll notice it again, so I know it wasn't a one-time mistake. So yeah, I think you losing the trade with Mirana on Lina is 100% because you don't have your passive. I think your decision to trade with Mirana should be correct. You're just losing it because you skilled incorrectly. Okay. So I wanted to talk to Spectre about items. Just for the sake of time saver, I implore you, I don't know how much carry you've played, but I implore you, if you're going to play meta heroes, the way I learn meta heroes, like, I just simply pull up, you know, obviously it's a bit different because sometimes I actually make my own builds, but I simply pull up the most popular players on these heroes, and I see, like, I'll watch a Miracle replay of Spectre. What items does he build? Copy paste. I guarantee you in the history of fucking the last year and a half, Miracle has not gone brown boots to Fusel, like, a single time in his career on Spectre. Like, it just doesn't happen. And that's meant to be in the most nicest way possible. It's so easily fixable. Like, it's not a problem that you should ever face again. Just copy paste. Once you start copy pasting builds, what that allows you to do is you're playing the hero optimally from items. But then you have to learn, okay, what are these items doing for me? Oh, I can start to learn how to use drums in fights. Like, maybe I've never really bought drums before because the 2 years I've played, drums were pretty bad. Or, you know, maybe my Manta usage isn't that great, but if I'm supposed to buy it on Spectre, I'm going to have to learn, you know, that kind of stuff. That's what I like to do. And eventually, once you feel like you understand the items, you can start to, like, personalize your own builds. You know, maybe I wanted to skip drums this game and go Midas Manta, or maybe I wanted, you know, a Radiance. I want to go drums Radiance, you know, whatever. But the build right now for Spectre is drums Manta, period. Like, every single game, no question. Maybe there's a Midas instead of a drums, but it's something Manta. Like, Spectre's go Manta. It is the best item for you in almost every circumstance because it's damage, farm speed, survivability against, like, open wounds and stuff. And it's just the best item. So I told you not to go to Fusel. I looked away for 2 seconds. You built drums, and then you went to Fusel anyway. So I want you to do a little bit of homework on these heroes, because at the end of the day, I don't know how much Dota you guys always play, but 5 minutes of homework can save a lot of fucking time we waste being suboptimal on builds. I realized a long time ago for myself that I used to skip a lot of steps. I would try to be like, I don't need to do that little bit of homework, or like, I need to do this too. So it's like, you know, it's not a way of talking down to you guys. It's more like, just accept that 5 minutes of inconvenience to enjoy the next 3 hours of Dota you're going to play. Like, that's what I like to think about with Dota, because I saw you sitting on 1,700 gold in the laning stage, and I was like, unless you're buying a Midas, please buy some items. Like, other than that, even if you had been buying a Midas, I would have wanted you to buy a Glove of Haste. Something I tell every carry player as a fundamental thing to do is you need to queue up whatever item you're going to buy in your quick buy. Whatever the next item's going to be, put in your quick buy. Why do we do that? Every one of you, so that you can make sure you don't have randomly 1,700 gold in your inventory at 5 minutes, or whatever it was, 9 minutes, and you just don't have any items. Like, that's what we're trying to avoid, because when you have it in your quick buy, it's like, damn, ding, like, I have the gold to buy it. Like, it gives you that little cha-ching sound or whatever. Are we cool with that? Do you have any questions, Spectre? Because I know I kind of just gave you a very blanket statement there.
Yeah. So it's either Midas or drums for basically the first item.
I would say, for simplicity's sake, yes. Like,
Okay.
there's a few situations that there's probably something else, but drums is like I'm fighting, Midas is I'm not really fighting. You know, like that's pretty much what
Yeah,
it,
yeah. I got
what
your point.
yeah.
I like to play Spectre, so can I ask, how is Face Boots or Blade Mail?
I personally think Blade Mail is hot garbage. Like I personally think that there's like some scenarios, like maybe against like the only kill threat being like a Wind Ranger, and suddenly you're unkillable. Like that would be pretty much for me when I would buy Blade Mail. It just doesn't accelerate me at all. Like as a carry, it doesn't give me anything to be a carry. It's like an item that's out of necessity to buy that I would buy it. So like whenever I'm playing carry or like a scaling hero on any role, 1 or 2, I don't like to buy these items that don't make me a carry unless I absolutely need them in order to carry the game. What I mean is like if I'm going to die 3 times in the mid game because I don't buy this blade mail, then I'm not going to be able to carry the game anyway. So that's why I would buy an item like blade mail. It's like you'll scale much better into the game having stat items, having like a Midas for farm. Drums benefit you and your team. While it's also cheaper than blade mail, so it's just something to like a mindset approach to Dota that I think about. Blade mail, it's like the only thing it really advances for you is like the 20% damage reflect on creeps. Like that's all it does for your farm. So that's why I try to avoid it if possible. Yeah, did Spectre have a question here?
Well, nothing at the moment.
Okay,
Uh,
go ahead.
Shut up. I know I did really stupid stuff at the few, and it's at the start of the game. It's just my first live coaching.
I 100% understand that you guys are going to play worse because I'm here, because I'm talking to you, I'm distracting you. I get that. So if there's anything I say that you confidently think you don't normally do, forget about it. Like at the end of the day. But obviously I don't want to take the time to try to distinguish these things, right? I'm just going to see whatever I saw was wrong. And as long as you acknowledge it and you know you don't normally do it, great. That is the problem with potential live coaching, and that's why I usually focus on replays. But live coaching can be really helpful because now that when I'm going over this replay, there's going to be some stuff I said to you guys during the game that will make a lot more sense now that I have time to actually talk to you about it. So, yeah, this was, that's why this quick buy thing is really important, by the way. There's a lot of distractions in Dota. Sometimes it's going to be me screaming in your ear, and sometimes it's just going to be a really high pressure situation where you're constantly scared of getting hooked by a pudge or something. And if you don't have these like automatic things, you're going to get distracted in the game. Like you're going to randomly forget things in the game. There should be no amount of talking that I should do to prevent you from queuing up quick buy items and buying them. Like that's an example of like, because you aren't quick buying things, it requires your actual brain thought, your conscious thinking to remember to buy items, which in Dota, we're trying to make as many things as possible not do that. We don't want that to be done. We want tread switching to be, instinctual. We want, manta usage and haunt usage and stagger usage to be instinctual. All the things I'm trying to teach you guys, like I'm talking to you out in these lanes, I want it to become a thought that eventually, if you think it enough, just becomes instinctual. You automatically do it. You don't even realize you're doing it anymore. And you're just going to play fundamentally better. So make sure I get through this game in the next day and a half. So I'll go ahead and fast forward a bit. So with Doom, with this next Devourer, I said to get a creep. Your other option was to eat the Catapult. Really important to consider because you guys end up taking like, I think like 400 or 500 damage on your tier 1 from this Catapult. I would say the Catapult's a worthwhile consideration on Miranas and Dooms if you're in a lane that's losing. Period. If you're losing, one of the best ways for the enemy team to capitalize on their lead is to pressure your tower at 5 minutes with the Catapult. That applies to all of you guys in any lane ever. So whenever you're losing in a lane or you're winning in a lane and you're looking to pressure with the Catapult, that is a huge timing window that most players in Dota at the lowest level, or I want to say lowest, at levels that are basically not pro, don't even consider. Like they don't even consider the Catapults in their decision making. So when you're ahead, look to capitalize on the pressure it creates. When you're behind, look to kill the freaking Catapult, or at least the wave with it. So with you, I saw this Devour usage, and I really wanted to see either a creep acquire that helped you a lot, or killing the catapult. Question for Doom player here. Any of these creeps you can imagine being useful? I know you can't eat the satyr yet. You can't eat the purple guy. Any of these other creeps that could be useful for you and why?
I don't know.
Do you know what this creep does?
The purge.
Oh.
The purge one.
The first,
Yeah. What is it good for?
like a episode. What?
You can purge open wounds off yourself. Did you know that?
Yeah, I don't know.
You did not know that?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. So I'm here to teach you. Purge can remove a lot of spells. Do a little bit of homework on basic dispels and strong dispels, and what in the game gets strong dispelled and basic dispelled. This purge right here is a dispel type, basic dispel. See that right there on the bottom? Basic dispel. And we look at open wounds, and it says dispellable. Yes. There's some things that'll say, you know, strong dispels only under dispellable. It's not the best wording, but if it says dispellable, yes, that means all dispels get rid of it. Otherwise, like, you know, you can't satyr purge off the sacred arrow stun. You know, like that's what this is saying. So this is important. Every little lane matchup, knowledge. This kind of shit racks up over the course of time. As Doom especially, knowing what creeps help you in specific lanes is a very important part of playing this hero. So you die in like a minute or two from here, getting open wounds. It's like, you took a mana burn creep. Let's just take the creep that removes open wounds, right? So that it's an expensive mana cost spell. Like, it's 120, but it's completely worth saving yourself from the Doom, or from the open wounds. Also, you're in a lane that's like not really advantageous. I don't know if you've played Lifestealer versus Doom, but it's not a good lane for you. This ability says, I'm going to go kill some bitches. This ability says, I'm going to clear waves and farm. Kill, clear waves, and farm. Okay? So, like, this is the abilities we're maxing. This ability does nothing in this lane. Absolutely nothing. It's a wasted skill point that effectively halved your Scorched Earth damage for the first 7 or 8 minutes of the game. So, really important that we skill our abilities appropriately. Some lanes, Infernal Blade's going to crush it. You know? Like, getting that Infernal Blade point because the carry's like a drow, you know? They're going to get caught. They're going to take the damage. Lifestealer can just rage that shit off, dude. He doesn't care. He also has a lot of sustain. Infernal Blade is like this damage over time harass spell that you wear people down with. Lifestealer's entire kit is predicated around sustaining, right? So, like, harassment spells from you are not the ideal build for you. You want to build, you know, not against the Lifestealer, but to help yourself in this type of lane. So something to think about, like, mindset-wise. It's more on the lean of harass here, and I've already said it's like the skill build makes that impossible. So this lane was lost off of these fundamental skill build issues from both of you. So that's why I wanted to show you guys that. Any questions from either of you while I continue?
Okay.
If you have a question, I know I'm pretty overpowering sometimes, so just let me know. I make it hard to talk.
I have a question.
Just tell me what hero you are. It's hard to keep people's voice in line.
The Keeper of the Light.
Okay.
I have a question. What do you think is a good position for with Doom?
With Doom?
Yes.
I honestly think most fours work. I would say that you either take the harassment approach from a hero... Oh, what did I do here? You either take the harassment approach from a hero like Lina, or you take the disruption approach from a hero like Clock and Tiny, that pretty much makes their mission to stay out of lane as often as possible, get Doom solo XP as much as possible. Doom gets 6, and then you guys kill the people together, right? Like, that's... So the two ways to work with Doom is to play this harass sustain game, because he's got Devour plus Scorched Earth, which is a very passive game, but you kind of just wear and tear, and then you get 6 and people can't lane anymore. Or you do the whole leave Doom to his own devices while maybe cutting the creep wave, like, you know, get it to his tower, and once he gets 6, you then kill people as like the Tiny and Clockwork, and you're like this rotating hero. I think most heroes work with Doom. It's just a matter of, the Doom and the support adjusting to the hero itself. That would work well. Does that answer your question, or?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Yes, I have a question as Lina.
Okay.
So, I mean, the lane was bad, and I didn't realize that the passive skill would help. So it wasn't going well. But is there any like advice for what else to do in the lane, because it felt like we couldn't do much?
Absolutely. So in this lane, or the thing I'd say about Lena is, if the problem with the hero is she doesn't really have like a backup plan. This hero kind of just wails on people in lane, and she can't really rotate, right? She doesn't TB gank her
Yeah.
own safe lane. She doesn't like walk mid. So honestly, if you're a hero like Lena in this case, your only other option is to really stack camps or like check runes. Like that's pretty much your only other option. Like you can walk and go check top rune. You can get bounties, which
Okay.
you kind of did, which all these random stuff on the map. But once you've lost the lane, Lena as a hero doesn't have a secondary plan. Like she doesn't have, fallback option. So I think it's more important to just, from your own takeaway here, is that
Yeah.
it's like it's hard to recognize retroactively without somebody telling you like, hey, this is why we lost the lane. It's like if you're gonna play Lena, I want you to realize what each one of your skills does. If you think you're right clicking ever, then your passive is 100% required. If you feel too scared to even walk up, then maybe you're right, your passive is not that great.
Okay.
But like, if you're going to be nuking the wave forward with your spells, make sure you're using them and then pulling the big camp. Because like that's pulling is the way to contest them indirectly, right? Like you don't want to fight them. You're trying to stay away from them as often as possible, and utilizing that pull is important. But in this lane, that's not an option because Mirana's just arrowing the big camp, right?
Yes.
So I'm giving you all these options, but since you're Lena, there's really no game plan elsewhere. And since you're against Mirana, there's no backup plan here because the creep camp is not really of much use to you. So it's something where I don't want to tell you there's never a backup plan, right? Because if you're playing some other hero, maybe there's a better option. But in this game specifically, and some other games you'll be playing, sometimes if you fail the way that was ideally played, that sucks. That's just how it is. Okay, so let's see. So
I want to know about offlane mechanics.
offlane.
Yeah,
Okay.
if we lost the offlane in the lane stage, what should we do?
Okay. So it's a very general question. I'll do my best to answer it. It would be the idea that there's two ways back in this lane, right? Whenever you're an offlaner, you kill them or you get your farm, right? Some lanes I like to. Okay, there's two options: you farm your way back or you kill them. That's the only two plays. So I ask myself, can I kill them? And if the answer is no, the next step is when can I kill them? At what point? What heroes do I need? What items do I need? What levels do I need? Do I need 6? Do I need an invoker? Do I need both? What do I need to kill them? So I do whatever I can, itemization and skill build wise, to farm. Until that point, I have to recognize the point where I can kill them. If that's not my lane, maybe go somewhere else. If my lane's ass, like I'm level 4 and Lifestealer's level 6, and if I walk up, I die, that's when you'll see me as an offlaner randomly walking mid and ganking. Like, fuck it, I don't have anything else to do. I can't lane. So that's like worst case scenario though, right? If none of the options I told you, like you can't farm in lane and you can't kill anybody in your lane, that's usually when you make some stupid ass rotation to like mid or jungling is the only time I jungle is when I ask myself, oh, I could go mid or bottom, and that's not going to work either. So I guess I'm going to jungle. That's where you're at. Jungle is the absolute last option. Okay, like everything else I just said doesn't apply. Fuck it, I jungle. And defend my tower. Whenever we lose a lane, all of you guys, you're always in the mode of, okay, what can I get on the map as much as possible, farm levels, etc. And I have to worry about losing my tower. So everything I do should make sure I have the resources to defend my tower, if possible, meaning like health, mana, skill builds, all that kind of stuff. And then, so I'm going to talk about that in a second. And then, in the meantime, like basically I'm trying to farm, right? I'm trying to get to the place where I can do something. But in the meantime, I don't want to lose objectives. I don't want to let the enemy team get more than they should. All that kind of stuff. So that's why I'm telling you to take that mindset. Because as an offlaner, you're not like a carry, right? You're not trying to scale into the late game with the way you're thinking at this stage in the game. You're trying to think, okay, I feel weak. I don't want to do anything. What's the quickest I can come to a situation where I can? And I think that's how I like to think of offlane. And that is not by buying a fucking Midas on my offlane Slardars that throw my game. Okay, moving on. That was unnecessary passive aggressiveness towards the people in my games. Okay, so Invoker. When you were mid, I told you to consider, worrying about rotating. When you pick your hero, very start of the game, just think, who do I kill, right? Lifestealer, not so much. But you could say, hey, if Doom has Doom, I could kill Lifestealer, right? Like, the only reason I can't kill Lifestealer is because of Rage. And he doesn't do that when he gets doomed. And I told you to look for dives and aggressive plays. Axe gets shit on by you. I love seeing Invoker picks. I don't play Invoker, but I know he's really good against Axe, Centaur, all these like strength guys that like cut the wave and shit because they just die to you rotating. So really just keep an eye out for that in your games. Like you can even communicate to your teammates. Your teammates need to start, like, as supports, your most important knowledge you can have is the cores you're playing with. All of you, like, at any time. Like, if you're a support player, no, Invoker shits on these type of heroes. Look to call for him to rotate. Say, like, hey, Invoker, Axe is going to cut this wave. Can you be here? It's like, that's relevant information because Invoker shits on these heroes, and that's the kind of time where supports can start making calls. So just know a lot of your knowledge as supports is actually about what your cores do to other cores. So start paying attention to those matchups, and you can watch Pro Dota to see that. A lot of times, if you see like a Centaur pick in Pro Dota, and then you see an Invoker immediately after, you can assume the Invoker is good against the Centaur, right? Like you can assume that, and then start to think about why when you're watching. This takes a lot of homework, but as supports, your knowledge of the game is the most important part that it takes to grow. So obviously, your spellcasting comes naturally. So go ahead and ask questions.
Oh no, I was thinking of going to the mid or following the info.
You're thinking about what?
We were just losing. Okay, we got a kill here.
Yeah, this kill was good. I really liked the rotation, and it worked out. It's just like I wanted to be. I wasn't sure if this was because I said something or not. Like, so I just wanted to make sure for future reference that that's the way your mindset is as the Invoker, but then also as the supports potentially making calls. So I saw this top, and so this is how that mindset approach I talked to you about works. Okay, I talked to you about how you can't kill this guy, so figure out when you can. This is Dota, man. There's growing pains. You're going to fuck up. Simply put, you thought you could kill him way earlier than you thought you could. So this is a point where you're like, okay, did I need more levels? Did I need my Invoker? What did I need? What do I think I needed? Maybe I needed like 5 things. I don't know. But like, whenever you fail like this, it should be, okay, I went for a kill. Why was it too early? Did I just fuck up mechanically? Did I, have to wait for somebody to rotate? Try to identify that reason. And then over time, your gauge of exactly when you're supposed to actually make something happen is going to get better and better. But that's, at this point, this is all experience, trial, and error. That's all this kind of stuff is. So, right here, you definitely went way too early. You're level 6, Lifestealer is level 8. It's just not happening unless you get your really strong mid laner to rotate for you. And he just got done being bottom, so. So, like, if I were you, I would have been like, hey, Invoker, I have Doom. Maybe come top. And if, say, I'm in a pub, what if Invoker never comes top? Like, what if that guy just doesn't listen to me? I'm asking you. The Doom player.
Oh, sorry.
I think it's I'm not the Doom player, but I think it's best if he saves up the Doom. If
Yeah, you just save it.
doesn't rotate up.
Right? Think about the situation where you'd want to use Doom and then wait for it to happen, right? Don't feel forced, because people say, like, BSJ, if I have Doom or if I have Chronosphere, should I use it? And it's like, I like to think of the situation that I would use it, and I wait for it to happen. and I look for it, right? So rather than feeling pressured to use Doom like this, I think this is like a result of you being like, I have Doom, let's go. But, it requires more than just using your spells. It's a lot about thinking exactly when they will be successful. So, yeah. Okay, so we do devour the catapult. Good. So I'm going to fast forward a lot because there is I got to make sure we get this done. So, this is another good rotation. This is really good punishment by you guys. Let's see. We end up killing Pudge tier 2, I believe. Okay.
Yeah, so it's nice.
You guys walk back mid. Doom's chilling top. All this stuff here is good. Did you guys buy the tome?
I didn't buy it. I think Cotter bought it.
Okay, Coddle bought it to get a 6
bought
there? Okay, just making sure it was bought in general. That's all. That's the main thing I care about here. So for Lena, right now you're level 5. We just need to get level 6. That's all that matters. So we do this triple stack. Great. We have Doom. We have Haunt. So in this situation, I think of Doom and Haunt as like +1 skills, meaning that they don't actually kill somebody individually when you're in this type of spot. They kill somebody if somebody else is helping you. Like, in this case, the Invoker is always that +1. So the reason why I was telling you guys to either go mid or have Invoker go top is because you have this Doom spell that is so powerful as if Invoker's there. But without him, the person might just walk away. And like that's not what we want. So the reason why I mention these spells as +1 spells is because alone, if you use Haunt or Doom, the person might just walk away. So really important to start thinking about hero synergies and all that kind of stuff because it's hard for me to explain much more than that, but I was trying to get you guys in the same spot. It's like as cores, you really need to think who enables who, right? If you're, do we need to take a tower to help Spectre? Do we need to, put 2 heroes in the same spot on the map to kill somebody? It's advanced knowledge. Like, this is something that by no means would I expect you to, know overnight. I would expect this to be something you work on over a long period of time. But as long as you're going into every game with this thought, like, who do I work well with? Who do I need to kill somebody? You'll start getting way better at it. And that's what we're going for. Because I felt like this stage in the game feels really awkward to me because Invoker and Doom are not in the same place. And I couldn't get you guys. I didn't want to like micro, right? I didn't want to be like, go mid! I didn't want to like say that shit. Or Invoker, go top! And so there's this weird situation where I think you are also trying to be too fancy with your Doom. You're level 8, dude. Let's be clear. This Mirana's level 7. Fucking Doom this guy. Like, who gives a shit? Like, the guy's level 7, you're level 8. Kill this fuck. Like, let's not hold our Doom. Just Doom his ass. I know you didn't Doom intentionally, so it's like you hesitated. Let's just use those spells because the way long cooldown and heroes work is use their cooldown to get something, right? And then during the time it's on cooldown, just go hit some creeps. But we're being max efficiency by using our ult, killing somebody, and then hitting some creeps. Like, that's what we want to do. So if we hold our ult, it has to be for a specific reason. What are you waiting for here, right? Like, maybe because you Doom, you can't kill Lifestealer, but like that opportunity isn't guaranteed to happen at some point. So that's why, holding your ult might just be a waste. It's just something to think about. So we get a DC here. I'm going to fast forward. So we do get the Doom on Lifesteal, which this is great. I remember I was like really trying to get you guys to do this. By the way, perfect opportunity here. So I called for, we got this rotation. This was great. You guys killed them at the big camp. And what I said here was somebody needs to go mid, okay?
Yeah.
I just don't have time to actually ask everyone individually. That hero, when I talk about this, you get a kill, separate on the map, be efficient, needs to be the weakest hero in fights. So, out of all of you, because you want the 3 of you, there's still, okay, after one hero leaves, the other 3 of you are still here, right? So
Yeah.
we're still putting 3 heroes on the same side of the map. So we want to be able to at least fight as best as possible with those 3 heroes, right? So whenever you
Yeah.
kill somebody, the weakest fighting hero needs to leave, ideally. If that guy doesn't have a TP, then the next weakest guy. Invoker is the strongest guy. So you should be the literal last hero to TP mid here. And maybe not even, if none of your teammates have a TP, maybe nobody goes mid, okay? Like, that's how strong your hero is. By you leaving, you're effectively leaving 3 useless heroes top. Like, because they're useless without you. Like, without you, they're just useless. So, I want that concept of killing somebody and being efficient to be in your guys' minds every game.
Yeah.
But don't do it in a way that just, like, neuters your team's ability to be strong and aggressive, right? So, in this case, I'd say it's Alina because he just ulted, right? Like, he has no ult, he has a TP available, he's low mana. This is a great opportunity for Lina to just get a nice lane of XP here, right? That'd be a great time. So, on the other hand, Invoker tried to TP because I told you that, but in the middle of the game, I obviously don't have time to be like, this is the type of hero that should be TPing, who is it? Like, that kind of shit doesn't, it doesn't work. So we end up getting a decent fight, I think, anyways. Go ahead and ask a question, sorry.
BSJ, so in the fight, if the Spectre is with us and then the lanes are open, should the weakest hero go to that mid lane or should the Spectre go to the lane?
Usually it's the weakest hero, period.
I see.
If the Spectre feels strong enough to contribute here, he should be here. Carries should not be taking the farm. Like, that is not how Dota works. Carries need to be doing the strongest thing they can do on the map without fucking themselves. Okay? Like, that's how carries work. So, if Spectre, and you're in a game like this, and you're like, oh, like, if I push this tier 1, I'm just gonna fucking die. Then go mid. Right? Like, because in that case, you are weak. Like, you are not helpful. So, like, that's a gauge where if you think you can push towers, go for it. And if you end up being wrong, ask yourself, why am I wrong? So in this case, you guys used a lot of resources, right? You've used Doom, you used Haunt, you used Lina ult, you used Kata ult. So when we push this tower, does anybody have an idea of what our intent with this tower push is? Like, what we're trying to get done?
Is it to pressure it?
Yes, to pressure. And if they respond, what are we doing?
We disengage.
We disengage, right? So whenever I push a tower, we're always trying to pressure, and there's 2 options. They come here, we fuck them up, or they come here and we leave. Like, that's the 2 options, right? Like, there's nowhere in between that. So whenever we're pushing a tower, we need to think about our own skills and our own heroes and think, are we fighting this? And we need to know that ahead of time, individually. Like, and you can communicate it too if you want, but like in a pub, obviously this type of stuff doesn't get communicated. But like, for me, I'm like so clearly thinking to myself, they should just back the fuck up if anybody comes here. But I didn't really know how to communicate that effectively in a way that wasn't toxic. So I just didn't say anything. But this is a situation where because you used all your spells, we're not fighting here, we're just trying to force something. And that's why it's good for Spectre to stay. Because if they don't come, you are necessary to take this tower. Like, you need to hit it, right?
I see.
But the minute they come, that's why TPing to your own safe lane becomes safe now. TPing alone to the opposite side of the map where none of your team can help you is safe because you forced 3 or 4 heroes here, right? And suddenly they're not bottom anymore. So, like, watch. So we see this. We're pushing. This is not what should be happening. You guys don't fucking kill this Lifestealer. Anybody want to give me a series of spells casted that kills this Lifestealer? Anybody? Please name how you kill this Lifestealer, guys. Okay, good talk. Can't. What are we doing? Instead, we take a fight with none of our spells off cooldown. Shocker, right? It's not. Sometimes I can be a bit harsh, but these are the type of things we need to think about every single tower push. And if you start to think about it, it'll just happen naturally. You walk up to a tower, and you're like, "Damn, am I fighting here or not?" And then you'll make better decisions because you'll at least have guessed one way or the other. Okay, so like I said with Doom, utilizing Doom, how do we kill this guy? Like when do I use Doom? It's like if there's a guy that walks up to defend the tower, how do we kill this guy? And if you can't think of an exact way to kill that guy, then don't try to kill the guy. In your mind, you need to think like, okay, like there's a way this works. I think I know what it is.
Yeah.
That's the kind of stuff we're talking about. So Okay, so I told Spectre to be careful here because they were missing. But then they showed, let's see. So the reason why Manta is so much better than Diffusal here is because without Manta, Lifestealer open wounds literally kills you. You're actually just gonna die. So like Lifestealer +1, he opens wounds you, you die. Like that sucks. That ability is like a 14-second cooldown, 12-second cooldown, and he's their carry. So he just single-handedly can threaten you. So on the map, it lets you farm near the Lifestealer without being scared of him. Like if he's showing on wave, you can literally just walk up and hit the creeps. But without the Manta, you can't do that. So whenever I'm a carry, I like to buy items in general, like on any hero, that allow me to farm more aggressively, that allow me to no longer be scared of something on the other team. You know, like that's really important to me. It makes me farm faster because I'm not worried about dying. Manta's a nice item on Spectre because not only is it defensive, but your Desolate does a bajillion damage from your illusions. So it's also a damage item, which is really nice. So just something to think about with that item in general here and how to think about carries.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I have a quick question about the itemization for Spectre.
Yeah.
So, is Diffusal a bad item for this game or for Spectre? Or,
It's not a bad item
can
this
I-
game at all. It's just Manta's just better in every regard. So you get
Yeah,
Manta
okay, so-
first, and then you could go Diffusal afterwards if you want to.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah.
thought that getting Diffusal was really a bad idea.
No.
Um,
I'm talking about purely priorities of items. So the way I look at this is, after you
okay.
buy Manta, I would then buy Scotty or Diffusal. One of the two.
Oh, okay.
Like, and
Okay.
it's at that point, like, I can't actually tell you which one's better because the game can look so different, you know? It's like, at that point, if I'm super far ahead, so the way I look at Scotty and Diffusal is they do similar things. Scotty feels way better for me, while Diffusal feels way harder for them to play against. Okay? Like, you see
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Kind of fucks them over by burning their mana and shit. So it's like, if I feel like I'm best served by itemizing for myself, I go Scotty. If I feel like I'm best served by itemizing to fucking kill somebody on the opponent team, I go Diffusal, right? And that's how I look at Spectre's choice there after the Manta. A lot of heroes have that choice. You know, am I building to protect myself, or am I building to, you know, fuck somebody over? You know, like that's how I look at this. So Doom asked about Blink, okay? I remember this. I'll actually talk about this later. So we get a kill here, which was nice. We got the Doom off, I believe, with the Blink Stomp. And I talked about how they still have Blink Axe, so be careful. Positioning on Invoker was a bit close there, but as long as you don't get caught, it's good. I believe your overall positioning this game was out of whack on Invoker. He's a hard hero, man. It's not just the spell casting, but you have to spell cast well while positioning yourself well. So the way I like to think about spellcasters and the way I've learned is, who am I positioning around defensively? Like, and as long as I have that in the back of my mind, like, okay, this hero threatens me, I'm scared of this, then I can spellcast willingly and, like, you know, instinctually, as long as I'm worried about that guy. You know? So every time I'm casting spells, in the back of my mind, don't get Axe Called, don't get Axe Called, don't get Blink Dismembered, you know? So anytime you see Axe, anytime you don't see Axe, you're going to adjust your play, you know? But otherwise, all you need to do is just throw out some spells. But that's why in Dota, there's so much random information, so much random shit going on, that we need to sort out what's important to us, you know? Like, so that our mind isn't clogged with a bunch of random crap. So on Invoker and positioning spell casting heroes, you have to know you're a huge threat. Like, you have to know the opponent, if possible, is going to jump you every single fucking time. If you're a Pugna, you're a Zeus, you're an Invoker, these backline damage spell casting heroes, you're going to get jumped. They want to jump you, right? Like, that's what's going to happen. So we need to position ourselves and spell cast in a way that doesn't let that happen as best as we possibly can. So right there, I don't know if it was luck or not, but you didn't get act called by, like, you know, 50 units. Like, that was real close. So, but since you didn't get called, look at that, you shit on them. You know, that own. So, it's just, I want to make sure, because later in the game, that is not so good. So we get this tower, which is great. We used our ultimates and long cooldowns to secure an objective. Now that we secured the objective and we forced them all mid, you have to understand that since we forced them all mid, I told you guys to be greedy, right? It was the same idea as top tower, where I told you guys you could pressure, and if they respond, you separate. If we don't force them to respond to us, we can't separate, okay? Like against heroes like this, okay? If you see heroes like this, I mean Blink Axe, Blink Pudge, Mirana Invis, Lifestealer is single target pickoff, Nyx Assassin's Invis pickoff. If you separate without forcing them to group up first, they can just pick you off one by one on the map, right? Like, that's all they're going to do. They're going to hunt you, they're going to find you, they're going to kill you. So, I'm telling you guys, it's like this rinse and repeat process of pressure objectives with our long ults, then separate. But then don't let them punish us. So, whenever you separate on Spectre, whenever you separate on Doom, I want you guys to think, okay, we see them mid right now, right? Lifestealer's showing mid. Yeah. Pudge is respawning in 7 seconds. If they were to beeline it straight at me, how long would it take? Okay? And your farm patterns and the way you think about your safety needs to be according to that. Okay? So, how many creep waves you're allowed to stay, you know, all that kind of stuff is based on how long it takes them to get to you from the last place you saw them. Okay? So, if you see them just continuously sitting mid, then, you know, farm like you're a raid boss, bottom, you know, because they can't kill you because they're mid. You know what I mean? But I'm going to show you guys in a second. I don't remember exactly the moment in the game that this happens. But I told you to push this wave and get out. I'm going to ask you a question. If they're ganking from the mid lane, are you any safer here than you are here?
It's basically the same. The risk is still high.
It's literally the same, right? So I told you they're coming from mid, but obviously in the middle of the game I can't communicate this. You need to understand this is how long you have. If they beeline it, where are they coming from? And where am I safe? If you're here, you're literally fucking sitting right fucking here, bro. You're in here, okay? Like, that's where you are. You're either here or you're, like, walking to this, right?
Yeah.
The reason why this is nice to see here is because if you walk like this, like, say you walk all the way over here, and suddenly the enemy team shows mid, what do you do now? Like, do you walk all the way back? You know, like, that's going to take a really long time. So if we sit here, like, close to where we would want to farm, right? Like, as close as we think we can without dying, you could even maybe sit over here, you know? In that case, if they show mid, you're instantly walking over to farm this camp, right? Like, you'll be like, oh, like, I wanted to farm this camp. I didn't feel safe enough to do it, but now that they're showing mid, I'm going to go walk over and farm it. So we got the fundamental part of forcing them to group. I told you guys to separate. But now, when you separate, they are naturally. It doesn't matter what fucking bracket you guys are in. I don't care what MMR. They're going to run at you. They're going to see 3 heroes in 3 separate spots, and they're instinctually going to be like, let's go kill the carry. Like, that's what they're going to do. Like, it's very predictable. Like, even at my bracket, people, it's very predictable. So, you end up farming this camp, they gank you, kill you. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, it was my mistake. I died here. But if I can ask a quick question. So at this point in mid-game, I saw that Doom was going for drums. I was considering drums, but because Doom had it, I didn't go for it. And in the end, I was going for the use, but it took a long time. Would there be any other possibility?
I've got a question, man. If your teammate buys a Yules, does that mean you're like, man, my teammate already has a Yules, I don't want to buy it?
I mean, he has a drum, so I get another drum straight.
Why wouldn't you, what's wrong with 2 drums? It's not an aura item anymore, bro.
Oh, yes. So I could just get it early on. Okay.
Yeah, it's just not an aura item. Like, you know, if you look at the item, it has charges. But other than the charges, which, you know, you can use separately, it's not an aura item. I'm asking you about a Yules because, like, you know, a Yules is just an item that gives you stuff. And it's like, are you not going to buy one because your teammate has one? It's like, you know, why not? So, basically, right now, the way they rework drums, who gives a shit if you have 2 drums? You know, it's not like a Veil. It's not like a Vlad's. It's not like a pipe. You know, having multiple drums has no backfire to it. So
maybe I should go for that cheaper.
Yeah, if you're gonna buy all these components, definitely finish the drums. I don't think the Yules is bad by any means, but you know, if you're gonna buy the crown and the Sage's mask, usually people buy Ethered Lens on Lena support. I've seen a lot of because you can position farther back against heroes like Axe and stuff, where you can be safer when you're casting. Your spells.
Okay.
Okay! You know, this is when I know purple player hasn't watched my videos. Unless the opponent team is showing 5 heroes elsewhere, we do not TP to our own safe lane. Ever. Okay? Ever. Okay. I told you to walk bottom, and then you instantly TP, and I was like, yikes. Okay? This is why. They were just bottom, dude. They were literally just there. What do you think the enemy team's going to do when they see, like, they were leaving bottom, and they see the carry then go there again?
They're just gonna run back.
They're gonna do it again. Why wouldn't they? You know, why not? Like, what's stopping them? Like, they're literally gonna hunt you. And by TPing here, the reason why walking is different than TPing is if you walk here and you see these 3 heroes run straight back at you, what do?
Dagger to somewhere safe in the trees and TP out.
Yeah, and TP mid, right? And you just go somewhere else and farm. But if you TP here, what do?
I'm gonna have no.
You don't have an escape plan. You don't like. Yeah. That's the idea, right? So that's why we hold TPs. TPs are like a backup escape plan that allow us to farm places that we wouldn't otherwise be able to farm. There's 2 states of places on the map: places I'm allowed to farm with a TP, and places I'm allowed to farm without a TP. Okay, like we need to start thinking about those things. They matter. They're distinguishable. They're different. So in this case, okay to farm without a TP or with a TP, not without one. Dead lane, etc. Dead. Okay. So, my favorite part about this. Here's my favorite part. Time out, guys. This is for, you know, the memes and chat and everything. This is my favorite part. So, Spectre did this. Let's just do it again. 1 second. Oh! I can't believe they're still here. I think that was the exact line I heard in the middle of the game. I'm like, guys! What have we learned here?
Yeah.
Fuck.
Not bad.
And then, not only that, but then my Doom's reactively TPing. Holy shit. We're not only feeding 1 by 1, but we're also TPing. Okay, so at least... and then we don't have detection on Doom with a blink against Mirana. So, okay, I talked about... sorry, I'm not going to be this ridiculous. I talked about, like, the conditions necessary for utilizing our spells. Really important with heroes like Doom, right? And it's like... If I'm playing against a support Mirana and I blink Doom anybody on the fucking team that isn't Mirana and I don't have Dust, the guy lives. Period. My ability, which is one of the strongest spells in the entire game of Dota, is useless without an 80 gold item. 80 gold. Okay, so let's just remember that. You just let a lifestealer carry level 14 live because you didn't buy Dust. Okay.
Okay.
Nobody should ever have to tell you that. Nobody on your team. You should be thinking about the necessary conditions for success with your skills. You should have to play against a Mirana like 3 times before that is like automatic. Like, I'd say like 3 or 4 times you play against Mirana. I'd say like the first time you're like, oh shit, I should have bought detection. The second time, oh shit, I should have remembered to buy detection. Third time, yeah, fuck, I forgot there was a Mirana. 4th time, not again. Okay, like, you know, that's the process of happening here, and it just requires thinking about our own skills. I don't want you to think about anyone else on your team. Or like anything. I want you to think about your own heroes' needs for success. Look at the opponent heroes, who stops you. Look at your teammates' heroes, who helps you. That's all it is, right? And sometimes it means you need to buy an item. Sometimes it means you need to skill a different way. Sometimes it means you need to go together with somebody, whatever. Like, it's the same thought as it was at 10 minutes in, right? As an offlaner, you're asking, you know, if I'm behind, how do I make do? It's like, you know, get your abilities, get the items you need to make them useful, and then go! You know, and that's your best shot. You know, you guys are losing pretty much all throughout this game, but even when you're losing, you have long cooldown ultimates that you can utilize to make plays. And I will tell you guys, almost always, having heroes feed in the bottom lane and then fight in the bottom lane is a recipe for losing the fucking game of Dota. Like, that is the... This part made me tear up a little bit inside. I was sad. Spectre TP'd and died. Lina TP'd and died. The rest of the team came bottom and doomed a guy that was invis. You know, this part made me... This was a sad part. This was a sad moment in the game of Dota 2. This part right here, don't really mind. You're trying to defend the tower. It's just a result. You're going to lose this tower after that. Like, those fuck-ups bottom were such a, you know, big deal that... you are going to lose the tower off of it.
Yeah. I don't know why I TP bottom.
Hey, that's why if you're TPing to your own safe lane, I'll tell you right now, it has to be premeditated. Like, you're thinking to yourself, if they go on my Lina, I'm TPing. If you didn't think about that before the Lena gets gone on, just don't do it, man. It just don't do it. And be like, next time, oh, I should have been paying attention. I want people to realize the dead lane idea is that somebody in your bottom lane is in danger. Like, they are in danger. So if you can remember to think, hey, if my guy's in bottom lane, if he's in danger, do I help him? I think so. So, like, if he gets gone on, you're ready to TP. But I don't want you to be like, oh shit, my Lena's dying under tier 2. TP. You know, like, no. That is not anyone ever doing that, guys. If you're ready for it ahead of time, go for it. Okay? But if you are not, it's much more likely to result in a throw than it is to result in positive outcome here. Okay, so we get another Doom on Lifestealer. Great. This is a great play. This is a good fight for you guys. It just shows the power of long cooldown ultimates. You guys killed 2 cores at the start of the fight. You said you had no spells. I remember somebody communicating that, but 2 heroes are fucking dead, so who cares? You guys end up getting 4. We turn that into a Roche. Great. I told you guys to play as efficiently as possible, so I told Lena to go mid. Just things to think about when we get... Like, we want to play as greedily as possible. If I thought Lena was needed for the Roche, then she should have been there. The Roche was the most important part, and then it's like trying to find that critical threshold of how greedy you think you can be while also getting the Roche. If you're not sure, do not play a greedy, guys. Like, if you're not sure, you know, if you're not having me to tell you exactly who goes where, just everyone hit the fucking Roche. You know, that just making sure you guys don't do that and lose a game because you're trying to be super efficient. Sometimes you can try to be efficient because you really think you can, and then if the Roche doesn't die in time because you weren't being efficient or because you were being efficient as the Lena, then, you know, just think about it where maybe next time you won't be that greedy. But it is important. Like, you guys reaped the map of as many resources as you could while they were all dead. It went from a 7k lead to a 4k lead. Like, that's really good for you guys. So now Spectre is walking back to base. I would argue it's almost worth flying yourself 2 salves rather than basing here. The amount of gold you missed on the map is probably about 200 bare minimum, and you have to think about experience, and also the lane push that you're missing out on because you went to base. So I didn't want to tell you in the middle of the game don't go to base, but that's something that you should be very wary of, not going to base if you don't absolutely have to. Let's see. Your team's about to fight, so you do put your dust in your inventory. That's good. Oh. This was the same thing as mid, man. I think you got your smoke broken mid like this. First off, who goes first on your team? Anybody? Who goes first?
Doom.
Okay, so who's in front?
Yeah, then
Me.
Doom. If your positioning does not fit that description, you are fucking up. Whoever it is. I don't care who it is. If Doom's being a pussy, his fault. A ranged hero's running in front, his fault. Okay, like, I don't care. The recipe for initiation here needs to be somewhat understood by everybody. Okay, like, sometimes it requires communication. Like, pro level teams, they'll say like, "Hey, Doom, you know," they're like, "I'll go first." Sometimes it's not that clear. I feel like in your game, it's pretty clear though, right? You have 3 ranged heroes, a Spectre, and a Doom, right? Like a melee beefy guy. So that you're out of position on Invoker, and then you show yourself. Okay, so we need to talk about map showing. This is gonna be as quick as possible. What heroes are the least likely to be showing on the map? Like, not in this specific game, but in general.
The ones that engage.
The ones that don't want to get caught, and the ones that want to jump people. Okay?
Yeah.
So on their team, the heroes that should not be showing are like Nyx, Axe, you know, and Pudge. So if you know this and you see them showing, what should you do? You kill them, right? You're like, that guy shouldn't be showing. And it's like, so if you're looking at the opponent's team's perspective as Invoker here, they want to jump you every single fucking fight, bro. How often should you be showing on creep waves at 27 minutes into the game? Never, right? Never. You cannot let them jump you. You cannot, right? Like, they have to fucking smoke and find you, you know, like while you're sitting in trees or some shit. You know, like, if they pull that off in your 3K games, damn, you know, good on them. Crazy shit, you know. But we need to avoid giving them what they're looking for without having to work for it. You know, that's what we're
Yeah.
trying to avoid. So, you break your smoke here, not a big deal. Accept the mess up and back the fuck off. Like, run. You know, like, run. You should not feel safe here. Like, I was like getting a panic attack just watching. I was like, holy shit. This
Yeah.
Invoker's showing on mid. What is he doing? We didn't glimmer him or anything either, so that's worth noting. Okay, so when you're support,
It's gone.
not only do you need to think about, spellcasting and all that shit, but if you have defensive items, who are you likely to use them on, right? In this game, it's probably Invoker, because he's the one they want to jump the most, right? So you should be ready to help your Invoker. So buying our Force Staves, our Glimmers, all that kind of stuff, they're most likely going to have a target in games. Like, meaning most games I have an idea of who I'm likely casting my Glimmer Cape on. Like, I'm looking for it. I'm like, oh, if my Invoker gets jumped, I'm Glimmer Caping him. If my Doom blinks in and they commit 4 heroes onto him, I'm going to Glimmer Cape him. I'm going to think about why I'm Glimmer Caping certain people. Obviously, it's Invoker's fault for being caught, but we see it all the time in Pro Dota where a core gets caught out of position and the supports just save the living fuck out of him. They just like to throw everything on him and he lives. So nothing wrong with making up for your core's mess ups there. So this was all about having the wrong hero get initiated onto with the Aegis. This was really our way back in the game. Unfortunate that what happened here happened. We end up feeding the Spectre 2. That's just life. We're down by AK, but game's still playable. So, great. I'm going to ask you. This is the moment in the game where I was about to hurl. So, sorry. So, basically, Doom, you're blinking in. You're BK being. What's your job after that?
Just do the carry, do the LS.
Yeah, just doom somebody. Yeah, ideally the LS, but we're dooming somebody, right? And then what are we doing after that?
Just use the skill tree for the hit stun the somebody.
Say that again, sorry?
I should hit with the skill 3.
Oh, skill 3,
On
yeah.
somebody.
Yeah, just keep hitting people and running around, right? Are you what you would call a frontliner for your team? Looking at your 2 supports and mid laner, do they need somebody in front? Beefy.
Yeah.
So, your way as an offlaner needs to be thinking about how you enable your team, okay? So you need to think about how you enable your team. Your team is enabled by you blinking in, BKBing, and surviving as long as possible. Do you see this? How that's your way of enabling them?
Yep.
What kills you on the opponent team when you are blink BKB'd?
LS.
Okay. And what do you need to survive against him?
Just run around.
Say that again?
Just run around.
Okay, but he open wounds you or whatever. Like, what items do you need to survive against this guy?
Armor.
Armor.
Doom.
Yeah.
Halberd or armor. Those are your 2 choices. Halberd or armor. This pipe, I was like, ugh. Ugh, fuck. He's gonna blink in and just die in 5 hits. It's a lifestealer. You're gonna doom the guy and then die in 5 hits. That's what's gonna happen. So that should be so pipe is an item that you buy for your team when you can already do your other jobs. Okay, like you can do what you need to do as a hero. The way offlane works is you are a utility hero that does need to prioritize themselves first. Like, if you're just gonna die, I don't give a shit what items you have. You're dead. Like, I don't care. You could have all the auras in the world, but if you die instantly, they're wasted, right? Like, it doesn't matter. So when you blink in, you're gonna get 5-shotted by Lifestealer, and that needs to be addressed for you. So you sitting on no armor items at 29 minutes in the game. I also mentioned to get your Craggy killed like 4 or 5 times. I know you're in a live coaching session, so there's probably a lot going on and you're probably distracted. But the fact that you're not panicking to buy armor in this game is like, crazy to me. I'd be like, holy shit, I see a Lifestealer with a Deso. He's going to chunk me. I have, you're getting 5 tower armor right now. You have 9 armor. Like, your hero has 9 armor. And he has a Deso. So he's going to fucking shred you. And that's just, situational awareness. Offlane, 100% of your skill set is buying items. I'm telling you right now, like you'll naturally learn to cast spells. You'll naturally learn who to go on and all that kind of stuff over time. Like just by playing some dotes, you're gonna learn that. But if you can itemize to make yourself more successful, you're like twice a good offlaner already. Like you are twice as good already just by buying the right items. And it's hard. But if you're in these games where you're dying after you bought a pipe, then you need to remember that that pipe was wrong. And then you need to go back and being like, why was pipe wrong? What was I dying to? You know, I bought this aura item for my team, but I kept dying. So it's like, you know, at the point where you don't need any selfish items, you know, you don't need an armor item to protect yourself or whatever, that's when you can start being selfless for the team. You know, you can buy whatever items you think your team needs. Do they need a Lotus Orb to save them? Do they need, you know, a Vlad's and a Soul Cuirass? What do they need? A Solar? What does your team need from you? But in this case, you itemized for your team at your own expense. And that was not good as an offlaner. That is not what we're trying to do. So I really want to talk about that because you'll see later in the game you kind of just get shredded. But so remember when we're bottom on Invoker? I want to tell you right now, if you're playing like this on Invoker, your team's either coming to you or you're TPing out immediately. You summon that Forge Spirit, you're either getting a rotation or you're out of here. Like, that's the two options, because this is the dangerous part of the map. The enemy team wants to jump you. They're going to look for you here, and your team either needs to meet up with you or you need a GTFO. Like, that's the two choices. Nowhere in between. So, in this case, if you're in, like, a pub, say, hey, guys, like, smoke bottom. And guess what if they don't smoke? You're TPing out. Fuck. Get out of here. That all comes with the knowledge that they want to get you. You are the best target for the opponent team to kill, right? So if that's the case, you need to, like, always be around your team or, like, very scared of whatever the opponent team is doing, especially when you're in the bottom lane here. So that's why I was like, okay, Spectre can be top, meet up with your guys' Invoker bottom and fight, and then you get caught. That's why I was trying to tell you guys to do that. And so for you, it's like, if you think you can be there without dying, great, because, like, you're scouting out, you're pushing out the creep wave with the Forge Spirit, all that kind of stuff. So the idea of what you're doing is fine, but, just learning over time exactly how survivable you are is the goal. So I told you guys to push top here. Spectre's doing a good job of split push pressuring here. I told you guys to wait for Invoker. Be very chill here. You guys were a bit... looked antsy. That might be the live coaching session effect, so I can respect that. So this is the part where we saw people TPing. By the way, Spectre, I don't know how often you do this in normal games, but this is exactly why you do what you did top. Is this. And then this. That is exactly why we do this. So we force them to separate. We see TP's out. Fucking run at them, like, I was yelling at you guys, run at these fucks, get them! Like, shit, they're separated. You're down by 12k, but you're going to kill them anyway. Like, that's the beauty of it. So, Spectre killed somebody on the side. Great. We also killed a Pudge. Notice how you just die in 4 hits to Lifestealer. Wish you had armor there. Feels bad. We do get the Doom off, though. And we turn this into a 1 fight. So this was great. You guys were down by 12k. Suddenly, because of superior map movements, you guys took a really good fight. Suddenly you have to cut the lead in half. We get a tier 2 off of it. We get an outpost. And then this is a situation that we talked about top. At the 8-minute mark, right? Which is, when we're pushing towers, are we doing this to force a reaction? Are we doing this to actually take the tower? Who's respawning? Who's coming? If they come, are we leaving? So for me, it's like, I'm this Lina. I'm hitting this tower. The reason why you guys could play the map however the fuck you wanted was because they were all dead. I told you guys to play as greedily as possible. But then by the time they're alive again, we need to be ready to fight. So you stayed here an extra 5 seconds, Lina. Like, this play was perfect. You just stayed here 5 seconds too long. It should have been push this in, and then since you have, like, low mana, TP back to base, and then by the time the opponent is respawned on all of them, you have full mana, right? Like, you're ready to go again. I told Coddle to go one more wave. I had to tell him I think that. Same idea for you. You TP bottom, push it out, and then go get yourself some mana, and then go again. We want to separate, be as efficient as possible. By the time the enemy team's alive, group back up again. Like, that's the natural motion of this part of the game, right? We kill people,
Okay.
efficiency, get as much as we can, group back up. So whatever that means for you guys. Items, levels, or items, mana, health. This was great, but that tower doesn't mean anything. We're not doing it for the tower. We're just trying to get as much as we can. You know, like,
Okay.
don't feel like, BSJ, I stayed there to get the tower. I want you to stay there as long as you think you can. I want you to think that way, not about getting the tower. Yeah. Okay, so...
So you mean it's more of the pressure, but the tower is not that important. The focus is the pressure.
The focus is that you kill people, and I want you to get as much as humanly possible. I don't want you to feel like you have to get anything. I want you to think, rather than this is what we have to get, is this is how long I can be here before I just die,
Okay.
Because I feel like a lot of people, myself included, will make decisions where we feel like we should have gotten an objective. You're like, I should have gotten that tower. We should have gotten that Roche. It's like, and if I start hitting Roche right now, say you guys started hitting Roche, and suddenly all of them, like, you look up, the Roche is at 2/3 health, like, it's pretty healthy. And suddenly all 3 of them are walking towards you guys. That should be like, we don't have time to finish this Roche. Back the fuck off. Like I don't care if we should have gotten this Roche or not. I don't care what should have happened. Can we do it based on who's alive and where they are? And for your case, Pudge was respawning. He's obviously a big kill threat to you, and you have to respect that one.
Okay.
So Invoker, once again, who in fights goes first? Invoker?
Doom.
Okay, so based on the opponent team and your Doom, where should you be?
Behind the team?
Behind your Doom. Your Doom should be between you and them, okay? The 2 targets that you would rather get gone on than you are Spectre and Doom. If the opponent is missing, meaning they aren't just showing heroes, they're all missing right now, right? 5 people, nobody's showing, you can't see anyone. That means you're at threat, right? We have to immediately assume we're at threat position, okay? Which is behind Spectre and or Doom. We are not allowed to be in front of Spectre and or Doom. Like, that is not allowed to happen. So it's just a positioning on the map thing. It's like, if you're scared, who's in front? Who's getting gone on? Who am I sitting behind? And for you, I think your positioning was the worst part about this game. I think for you as a player, not only in team fights, but on the map. Think about, who's trying to kill me? Who should I be behind? If I don't feel safe, that's when you just sit behind somebody, man. And it's whoever you think you should sit behind. Even in a pub, if the guy's not working with you, if this Doom wants to be sitting and hitting Ancients, like say you're in a pub, right? And this Doom is just hitting Ancients, guess where you're sitting? Right here. You're sitting behind the Doom. Let him get gone on. You'd be amazed. Look at the fights in this game. What fights have you guys won? The fights where you initiated or you did not get jumped, right? Somebody else got jumped. Those are the fights you guys have won. What fights have you lost? The fights where you got jumped. That's all that matters. It is all that matters. Like, their fight condition wins, you guys can be up or down by 10k. Who gives a shit? If you get jumped, you're going to lose. Like, that's just how it is. So that's why it's like no amount of farm, no amount of like creep gold you can acquire, no amount of information scouting you can give to your team matters if you're in front of the Doom or the Spectre and you get jumped. Right? So make them work for it. Make them do some creative ass shit to catch you.
Okay.
That's what I want you to make it as humanly difficult as possible. Like, when I play against the best Invokers in the world, that's how I know. It really is how I know. It feels impossible to jump them. Like based on their positioning and all that kind of shit. I'm like, holy fuck, I can't get this guy ever. It's like that. So I want you to really change your priorities there, because I think the rest of your game was pretty solid. So, but I would say you had 2 really crucial mistakes this game that really made the game hard. This turned into a Roche. The other one lost you guys the first Aegis. And I think without those plays, the game would have been much better. But aside from that, your plays were good. But we do need to avoid those type of plays as such an impactful core like Invoker. So we saw a few things happen this game. I am gonna wrap this up pretty soon.
Okay.
When you guys, the Lina should have definitely hesitated bot back there. But notice how as long as your backliners are casting spells, they're hitting your Doom, they're hitting your Spectre. This is the best recipe for success you guys can have. It really is. But the problem is, it was a bit staggered, and we didn't focus the Doom target, and then like the ability casting in general wasn't that great. Like the synergy of stuff. But you know, if you die on a hero like Lena and it's near your towers, or a hero like Invoker and it's near your towers, like a hero that they wanted to jump that's super squishy, you just have to buy back. Like, we do have to instantly buy back. So, like this later on in the game, you know, like 35, 30 minutes plus. It's like, okay, I know they jumped me, but we're going to fight here. Let's go for it. This is just the fact that you guys are down by 14k now. The Lifestealer is a solid item ahead of Spectre. If it was different, the Spectre could have just fought him. In this case, like, this is not good because you're behind. This right here is not good because you're behind. Scotty is like a luxury item where you need to recognize the games where you just need to scrap for every item you can get, okay? The difference between Scotty and Abyssal has a nice build-up where the first 2,800 gold gives you something, right? It gives you something. While with Scotty, the whole 5,000 gold is pretty much required because, like, an ultimate orb itself is not that special, right? So, in this case, if I'm deciding between Scotty and Abyssal, it pretty much comes down to that. It really does. Unless we absolutely need the stun from Abyssal, then I would just buy Abyssal. But in this game, I think the Scotty and Abyssal accomplish about the same thing. I'm just buying Abyssal so I can have an item for this fight. I think you might have had one fight here if you got a couple bashes, so... okay. Once again, I think the Doom, if you had the Craggy Coat plus this being like a Shiva's, you just last so much longer and the fights would be so much easier for you. I think your play in fights was not a problem. 100% for you items. So just to recap, I've talked to Spectre a lot. Doom was a lot about the items. Invoker was about the positioning. I think for Coddle, it was a lot about what items you use on who and why. And I also think... Oh, I wanted to talk about this, but I didn't get the chance. There were a couple times you guys smoked. On Coddle, you have to have wards when you smoke, especially nighttime. If that means you save a ward from earlier, like you just, if you say we don't have any wards in stock, BSJ, then where the fuck is the ward? Where'd you place it? Like, why don't you have one? It is required. There's, I don't want to go back to the specific moment to find it, but there was one smoke I told you guys where you were going to their triangle, and I said, and somebody said, I guess we have to go to their triangle, and I said, that's fine as long as you have a ward. And then I looked at your inventory and you didn't have a ward. Because the only reason going to their triangle is bad is because you're fighting up a high ground, which means you have no vision, right? But the reason why smoking with a ward is so important is because, they can't see you from outside of the 1,100 range of the smoke. But if you get that ward up, you can see them. So we're going to get that jump. So whenever you guys are smoking for these plays, oftentimes you're going to smoke to a part of the map you can't see. Like, that's almost always how it works because the opponent controls that area and you're trying to take it from them. So not having a ward is incredibly detrimental. I also talked about sentries with wards in this game at the start. It's hard to remember, but in this game, every single ward you play should have a sentry on top of it. Because at that point, it's like false information. It's like lying to you. Because half the times that you would see a hero walking through that ward, they're invis anyway. So,
I see.
So it actually is almost detrimental because you'll be like, you'll have a ward, you'll be like, there's nobody there. But it could just be a Nyx infested, in a pot of multi. You have no idea. So that was a big part for you. I think your overall team fight play was pretty solid, but it was the information gathering for your team that I was a bit, I thought was lackluster, and that's the impact you have. You're going to cast your spells. I talked about with other roles, you're going to learn these things. With Doom, you're going to learn how to naturally initiate. You're going to learn all that kind of stuff. It's Coddle. You're going to get better with these items, but I want you to think about who you're using the items on. You're going to get better at using your ultimate. Your ultimate usages were pretty good this game. But if you're not supplying your team with ward vision and sentries properly, none of that shit matters, man. It just does not matter. So, in this game, with the Lena, your hero doesn't do anything super fancy. But I do believe Yule's was really necessary for the axe call, and you should always be looking to Yule's the axe call. I think Ether Lens was super important for your positioning. I talked about drums as in you shouldn't be afraid to buy a drums if somebody else buys one. But since Doom literally always buys drums, and most people always buy drums, usually that means you should go for something else if there's another item that's really good for you. I see every Lina go Ether Lens. I see it always. It's very hard to position against. I talked about it already, but it also makes your items like Yule's and Force Staff later be better because you can cast them from farther. So in this game, you didn't have to do anything fancy. It was a lot about positioning similarly and then using your Force Staff and Yule's to save your teammates from Axe Call and a Lifestealer that's hitting them. Like that's your job in this game. So I think overall for you guys, I know this is something that's going to be hard to move forward with, like every single game. But like if you're a hero that naturally buys Yules, you know, like Lina.
Yeah.
In this game, what's the best thing to Yules? It's Pudge Ulti and Axe Call. So like, you know, think about when you need that Yules based on when you think those things are a problem. And make sure when you're in fights that you're using Yules for those things. That's what I talk about with these items. So it's like when you're the Doom, the vision I want you to work on is I push R on this guy, and then what? You know, how is the opponent going to react defensively? How is my team going to assist me? You know, who on my team helps me there? The biggest thing for me there is you can Doom the Lifestealer, and if he just hits you, you die anyway. You know, maybe you didn't realize that, but later on you just died anyway to a doomed Lifestealer. I need you to Doom that guy and live. You know, I actually need you to... The whole idea is you're making it a 5v4, not a 4v4. You know, you're not trying to, like, you know, be a kamikaze and take him down with you. You're trying to take him down. You know, that's what you're trying to do. So with that in mind, your vision for getting to that point was great, but continuing from the Blink Doom point was not. You didn't have to dust that bottom fight. You didn't have the armor items to tank through it. You know, all that kind of stuff for you there. So I am going to wrap it up with that summary. Does anybody have any final questions? Like, I know I probably just talked for like 10 minutes. Go ahead.
I have a quick question. I've been watching the Omega League and I've been listening to you guys analyze the draft. And if I remember correctly, you said as a carry player, if you don't know what to pick as a carry, pick Spectre. So my question is, when is the time not to pick Spectre?
Low cooldown pushes. Low cooldown push
yeah.
lineups is the worst time to pick Spectre, pretty much. The only thing she suffers from is the enemy team being able to get too much done early on in the game when her Haunt's on cooldown. So it's like Beastmasters and Lycans and like Nature's Prophet plus Enchantress or something like that. But honestly, in low MMR pubs, you hardly ever see those heroes, at least from what I've seen. So in low MMR, like, low MMR is a loosely defined term. Basically, like, not immortal. You don't see those heroes very often. So I would say Spectre is pretty free in most cases. For you.
Okay.
Low cooldown and ganky.
It's not necessarily ganky. Spectre can punish ganks a lot. It's more about she can't defend towers. Like, she just loses all her buildings. So it's more about the pushing than it is the low cooldown ganking. Because Spectre can actually participate in fights, but she can't clear waves really fast, and she can't defend her own towers. So, yeah. Anybody else have a question?
I think for the Lina items you mentioned about the Aether Lens, which I realize is good, but so after the boots, maybe should that be the next item in typical games?
Yeah, that's what I see a lot of. I see usually mana boots and then disassemble into Ether Lens and then Tranquils. That's usually what I see.
So the mana boots so that it can disassemble. Okay.
Yeah, they just do that because the mana boots naturally, like, you know, the 900 gold from the energy booster goes into your Ether Lens. Does anybody else have a question?
No, I'm good.
Awesome,
I
guys.
think I'm good too.
Hope you guys learned something. Hope it was fun. I had a good time.
Yeah.
It was very fun.
Thank you.
Awesome, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for being good
Thanks
students,
so much,
guys.
BSJ.
Yeah, have a good one, guys. Just another shout out, guys. This was sponsored by Gamers Class. Basically, it's an online coaching platform where there's coaches that are available, and it's just a monthly subscription for $10. There is a free trial if you want to try it out. All the people that I just coached were simply members of Gamers Class, so you will sometimes get an opportunity to do stuff with someone like me, but oftentimes, you know, it's not always going to be. But yeah, it's just all about a website that's helping people connect with coaches and learn the game. So that's what it's all about. There's other games on there too if you're interested in that. But that's what this has been sponsored by, and I'd like to thank them for the sponsor, and hope you guys learned something. But thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed that.